Sisters and brothers, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And let me also welcome all of you to our 2011 John P. Redmond Health and Safety Symposium and the Redmond-Barbera EMS Conference. This is the first time that we've combined these two premier educational forums. And we came to this decision after reviewing past conference turnout as well as content. And quite simply, we saw there was a lot of overlap in terms of participants as well as content, and those that subject matters of the two programs which seemed to mesh together very well. I also took into account that there are so many quality IFF events each year that force our locals to choose which one to attend, realizing it's often difficult to try to attempt to attend all of them. So we combined these two outstanding conferences and believe this week's presentations will continue to provide the top-notch training you've come to expect from each program, while providing economic and financial efficiencies for our affiliates, as well as this international union. And as I get started, I also want to make sure, right here at the front end, that I acknowledge my good friend, a great trade unionist, a man who has been representing IAFF members for almost 40 years and who led the 12th district of this IAFF for over 2 decades. A true pioneer in the fire-based EMS field who helped to blaze the way. He's a strong advocate for fire-based EMS when many of his peers were not willing to change or see the future. And he is the man for whom our EMS conference is appropriately named. 12th District Vice President Emeritus Dominic Barbera. Dominic, thank you for everything that you have done for all of us. Brothers and sisters, this week the IAFF is meeting for the very first time in the 94-year history of our union in this incredible city of New York. And I want to thank Steve and Al for all of the work and support they've offered to make this important event a success. And I want to thank the commissioner and the staff chiefs for all they've done to help work with us to make Fire Ops 101 a success. All of you are due our congratulations and our deepest thanks. Thank you, brother, for all you did. And as already acknowledged here this morning, we also gather just blocks away from what was Ground Zero, September 11, 2001. 10 years following the horrific attacks that killed over 2,000 civilians, and from our ranks took the lives of 343 members of the FDNY. It was an attack of historic proportions on our country, on our homeland. A scene of unimaginable destruction, and the sight of unmatched courage and sacrifice on the part of our brothers that tragic day. As all of you have seen on our agenda, we will recognize and honor the service, duty, and sacrifice of those who responded and those who died that fateful day in a remembrance ceremony on Thursday to close out this conference. I believe we've put together a program for that observance that will do justice to our fallen. And I know all of you would expect nothing less from your union. And so I hope and I ask that everyone will remain with us through that day's closing. But today, as we convene in the largest city on our continent, in one of the greatest cities in the world, while we can't escape the memories of 10 years ago, which changed the course of this nation, that day also marked a moment that absolutely changed the course of our profession forever. What brings us here is the commitment throughout our union's history to keep our members safe, to focus on and discuss the critical issues that will affect their lives and livelihood for decades to come. The next 4 days will help us determine the course and the future of how we keep our members who are out there on the front lines every day serving their communities alive so they can go home at the end of their shift. And we've got to work to keep them healthy so that they can enjoy a long retirement after a career of service to their communities. You'll be discussing, learning how we create, enhance, and maintain EMS systems that best utilize the assets and structure of the fire service in North America, and that this union has helped transform into the most effective and efficient emergency response network in the world. A fire-based EMS system that has helped to protect and grow our jobs while enhancing the skills that have made our members indispensable to the citizens they serve. So while we focus on the health, safety, and EMS systems, programs, procedures, and policies, we have to do so within the incredibly difficult economic realities that are in play at this very moment in time. Realities and forces that stand to have as a dramatic effect on the safety and health of our members and on our ability to deliver timely and effective service to the public as any events in the history of our two great nations. This recession that began 3 years ago, when the most powerful economic engine in the world was virtually brought to a screaming halt. And although technically over, we face a weak economic recovery, which continues to control and even devastate so much of the federal, state, provincial, and municipal budgets under which our members operate. And if the severe financial distress that is weighing down so heavily on fire department budgets weren't enough to contend with, as we all witnessed in the last election cycle, the frustration, fear, anger of an electorate over a continued soaring unemployment rate, inconceivable home foreclosures, a stock market collapse, an unstable banking system, combined with the incredibly slow recovery of the U.S. economy, all that changed the political landscape for the worse. As both political parties fought over who was responsible for the economic turmoil, the United States Congress stopped functioning as a lawmaking body and became a club of childish finger-pointers who dug their heels in support of extremist positions, while the administration was not effective in moving Congress to act in the best interests of the people. Working together to solve our country's problems took a back seat to scoring political points as to who's going to win the next election. And so that angry electorate, they went to the voting booths in the fall of 2010. And that election resulted in a wave of conservative Republicans taking control of the House of Representatives by turning 63 seats from D to R. They gained 6 seats in the United States Senate, reducing that majority from 59 to 53. Across the country, 20 state legislative bodies changed control, and ultra-conservative governors took over the executive branch in 9 states. While the Canadian economy hasn't suffered from the meltdown like the U.S., the extremism in politics has begun to leak across the border. In the federal elections that occurred on May 2nd of this year, the Conservative Party solidified its grip on power. And while we can take some heart that the new Democratic Party, which is Labor's traditional ally in Canada, won a surprising number of seats in Parliament, enough to become the official opposition, the Conservatives captured a majority government by running on a platform of cutting public service. This is in addition to an ongoing shift to the right in many provinces and increasing anti-union rhetoric from conservative leaders, even at the municipal level, like in Toronto, where their new mayor has begun an attempt to dismantle that city's critical emergency services and paint the city's firefighters as the problem. So while we are one of the very few unions that work with politicians in all parties, this new group of ultra-conservatives that seems to be controlling the policy positions of the Republican and conservative parties at all levels now are truly governing in a reckless manner. These extreme right-wing ideological Tea Party zealots, and I know our Canadian members have your own version called the Wild Rose Alliance up there in Western Canada, have initiated a hateful attack, not just on unions, but a personal attack on the people who work every day, all of you, all of our members, an attack that we haven't seen since the 1930s. And they aren't just coming after us one at a time, with a lawmaker in one state pushing legislation, a governor in another deciding to go after us on another issue. That's occurred over the time of our history. No, what we are witnessing is an orchestrated, organized, disciplined, well-funded assault on workers and our unions. This isn't just about Wisconsin and Ohio, where the very foundation and future existence of our labor movement is under attack, where the basic rights of workers to come together to influence the rules under which they work, which can enhance their safety and health, and pay the benefits and the pay that they earn for their labor and their sacrifice, all of this being decimated by a coordinated, focused, comprehensive strategy by those who simply want to see labor dead. No, this isn't about an empowered right wing that is ruthless and unrelenting, not just in Washington, D.C., but at the state level, where we've seen the American Legislative Exchange Council under the radar screen. Not many pay attention to it, but ALEC, a think tank funded by the Koch brothers, ExxonMobil, and over 300 corporations, developed, prepared, and distributed anti-worker, anti-union legislation, handing it off to over 2,000 GOP conservative members of state legislatures across the country at the end of last year. And those right-wing ideologues then introduced 856 anti-labor, anti-worker bills in 26 states so far this year, designed to wipe out collective bargaining where it exists, promote right to work, invoke paycheck protection to try to silence our voice, end project labor agreements and prevailing wage, eliminate union dues deduction simply to kill us, and then to go after our defined benefit retirement systems, to dismantle them as we know them today. They are developing ways to go after our staffing levels, cut what's spent on our personal protective equipment and apparatus, end your rights to good health insurance, privatize EMS delivery, force all of you into the Social Security system, 70% of our members who don't participate, and the list goes on. Their goal is clear. They are using this well-funded and truly coordinated game plan to attack all of us, every one of you, from the federal, provincial, and state level, right down to the local level, to destroy forever, cripple the North American labor movement. Their goal is nothing less than to turn our society back 100 years, when a very few held all the gold and all the power, and the masses, the workers, had little of anything. And the only thing that stands in their way is us. That's why they focus their laser sights on our members and their union. Now, I'm not saying the firefighters and paramedics are the only ones being attacked, but we have become the focus of the rights campaign, similar to their attacks on teachers. Why? Because over the years, as the work of our members has received more and more media coverage in response to all kinds of hazards, as high visibility incidents have raised the public's awareness about the dangerous work and self-sacrifice our members display every day. Our profession has seen a tremendous growth and prestige and respect with which the public views you. And as that respect for our members has grown, this union has harnessed that power like no other to affect the political process on our members' behalf. Our enemies get that. They know you hold tremendous credibility in the public's eye. They know you are part of the very fabric of your communities, as you heard the speaker describe this morning. And they have targeted all of us to diminish our power and influence so they can continue to push their agenda down our throats. And that agenda starts with taking away your rights, your voice, your will, and the ability to fight back. So they began to attack all of us on all fronts, from all regions, in every direction, even in states where they knew they had little or no chance for success. But they did it just to keep us fighting on multiple fronts. They tried to sap our resources, hoping to spread us thin, to weaken us, and set us back on our heels. Part of their strategy is to change the way people view firefighters, paramedics, and what you do for your communities. They are warping and denigrating the terms under which all of you work, dragging you through the mud, then offering you up on the chopping blocks of federal, state, provincial, county, and city budgets. While the financial titans, the predatory lenders, the hedge fund managers were ruining our economy, killing your deferred comp accounts, throwing more and more families out of their home, exploding our pension plan unfunded liabilities, all while they continue to make their millions and billions and giving themselves disgusting bonuses. They have worked to create the enemy for all of our municipalities, states, budget problems, the deficits that are occurring, the financial woes that we experience. And the enemy that they've developed and are pushing out there, the enemy is your kid's school teacher, the cop on the beat, and all of you. Yes, you are the enemy, the firefighters and paramedics who save lives. That's what they portray. That's what they are pushing when they talk about too much government. They point to your pay and say you make too much. They look at your health insurance that protects you while you do a dangerous job, and they say you have a Cadillac plan, and that even though you've risked your life to earn it, you don't contribute enough to pay for it. They're using every avenue they can dream up to try and kill the chances that you have for a decent, secure, healthy retirement after a career of sacrificing life for your community. They are coming after your safety on the job. They're doing it by cutting jobs, closing companies, imposing brownouts, privatizing EMS, and discounting the scientific evidence that shows how proper staffing increases public and firefighter safety. Clearly, they are coming after all of us hard. But I tell you what, I've got a message for them. We're not going to accept their distortions, and we are not going to stand for their misrepresentations, and we are ready to fight back. And if it's a battle they want, then it's a damn battle they're going to get from this IAFF. We have been, and we continue to fight with everything we have. And they said, I better start understanding when you screw with one of us, you are screwing with all of us. And I say, damn the torpedoes, we'll never give in, we'll never back off, and we will never back down. Those who are attacking our members and the incredible work that they do, they have forgotten. They have forgotten that when those towers fell, 343 of the best of our nation were rushing in. And they don't care that all of our members on the front line of across our two great countries continue to be willing to make that kind of sacrifice to their lives every single day. They have forgotten how firefighters throughout the Gulf Coast risked life and limb, waded through the toxic soup left over by Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, Wilma, to save civilians, even while their own families suffered terrible personal losses of their own. They have forgotten the sacrifice of tens of thousands of our members who battle the wildfires that regularly devour California and Florida, and which have seen a resurgence of wildfires in the great Northwest, Oklahoma, Texas, and Arizona. And brothers and sisters, I know it's not in your character. I know who you are. It's not in your character that when you go to an incredible incident, you make a good knockdown, you make a couple of snatches, a rescue. When asked, you instinctively respond that, what? I'm just doing my job. That's who you are. I know you're an aggressive bunch, all alpha dogs. But the truth is you're understated. You really don't like bringing that spotlight of attention onto yourself. But we have to get over that character in us, particularly as leaders of this great union, because it's our job to make sure the media and the public don't forget what our members do, so we can advocate for them. And that's why I'm here at this union's premier health, safety, and EMS conference talking about politics. That's right, politics. Because nothing that we discuss here this week will be implemented unless we have the power and the influence to influence that political process and to do it at every level of government. Simply put, we have to acknowledge that every aspect of our members' lives is affected and controlled by decisions made by those elected to public office or by those appointed by politicians. And we know that elected officials and too many decision makers aren't benevolent beings. They don't wake up in the morning and say, I wonder how I can help make it safer for our firefighters and paramedics today. More and more, they don't either understand or have regard and respect the services our members provide, whether it's a fire in a single-story resident, high-rise, or factory, whether it's a fire-based EMS response to a heart attack, a serious injury, a physical vehicle accident with entrapment, whether it's a machinery or industrial accident, a confined space, high, low angle rescue, a hazardous materials or WMD incident, or perhaps something that seems mundane, as the speaker mentioned this morning, as being stuck in a crowded elevator. No. The only way to make sure we turn those programs and ideas that will be discussed here this week into law and policy is by impacting public opinion as well as playing and having sway in the political arena. That's our job. It's our job to make those who make the decisions understand that the tools, equipment, knowledge, and skill sets required to mitigate all of those incidents must be funded if we're going to save lives and property. It's our job to never let them forget who saves thousands of helpless people when floodwaters rise every spring in the Midwest, and that the only way our members can perform those swiftwater rescues and save those lives is through constant training, which costs funding. It's our job never to let them forget who responded so quickly and treated and saved victims in Tucson, Arizona, just minutes after that madman murdered 6 people, shot 19, including United States Representative Gabrielle Giffords. And that our incredible members who responded that day were so effective because in the months just prior to that shooting, they had performed simulated mass casualty training events that required significant public resources to ensure an effective and life-saving response. It's our job to never let them forget who provided the search and rescue and cut through the debris left in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Joplin, Missouri, and so many other communities recently devastated by the deadliest tornado season in 50 years, and that those USAR teams and firefighters train constantly, which requires a commitment of public money. to ensure that they can continue to be deployed in a moment's notice and operate safely and effectively. It's our job to make sure they understand that we didn't have to attend 2 funerals in Toronto this year. We didn't lose Captain Neil Brown and firefighter Cam Whitaker, who with heavy smoke conditions became disoriented and fell from an adjacent building into a collapsed building last January, and who are going to be here this week to share their experience with all of you because they received life-saving training developed by this IAFF through our Fireground Survival Program. And it is our job to remind them when a New York City cop called in what he thought was a routine car fire in Times Square on May 1st, 2010, that it wasn't dumb luck that our firefighters here who responded discovered clues that led them to the critical decision to not turn a hose line on the car. It was the fact that those FDNY members who responded that day were trained to expect the unexpected as part of their IFF-provided emergency response terrorism operations course. So when they arrived on the scene, their training taught them to investigate the source of the smoke further, which enabled them to recognize a potentially deadly car bomb planted by a terrorist and provide evidence that helped the FBI swiftly track down and arrest the driver before he's able to leave the country. And all I can say to them is a job well done. That's why I'm here at this Signature Health, Safety, and EMS conference talking about politics. Because at a time when total calls are increasing, we're forced to defend and protect every aspect of our members' health and safety, whether it's the size of individual crews, overall staffing levels, response times, wellness fitness programs, or whether it's our ability to have a voice in the response capabilities of their department. The most important factor in our success in those areas is our ability to influence the public and then the politicians that make those decisions. That's the way it works. That is the reality we face. And while we have felt the assaults by our enemies trying to destroy us with their waves of anti-union, anti-firefighter legislation in the state houses and at the county and city level, we've also seen a few of our friends standing up, but we've seen too few of our friends not willing to stand up and fight on our behalf with the same ferocity and fervor in which our enemies are trying to annihilate us. Their silence during these early battles was deafening, and that's why on April 26, we announced a freeze on contributions from FirePAC to federal candidates, federal parties, federal leadership PACs, and the super PACs that support them. And with the full support of our executive board, we simply turned the spigot off to the millions of FirePAC dollars, and we're going to keep it off until they start standing up and stepping out. Not another nickel until you begin fighting on behalf of us. And we are getting their attention. And now we're focusing much more of our time and resources where so many of you are fighting for your very existence. We've joined with our states and provinces and locals to do everything in our power to fight back against these attacks. And while we haven't won every battle, we're getting some traction out there, succeeding holding off many of the advances of those attempting to turn the clock back on us. It's why, working with our great leadership in Oklahoma, we fought off elimination of binding arbitration using intense lobbying and earned media. It's why we ran television ads and used social media successfully to convince voters to reject the ballot initiatives in Jackson and Harpers Wood, Michigan, that would have allowed those cities to consolidate the jobs of firefighters and cops to create a dangerous public safety officer model. No, the people said hell no when we went to them. It's why we partner with the Florida professional firefighters and using strategic cable television and radio ads, along with some incredible lobbying by our leadership in that state, we defeated dues deduction elimination bills and protected defined benefit pensions from the devastating proposals that Governor Scott was trying to jam down the legislature's throat.
It's why we worked with our leadership in Tennessee to beat back attempts to limit and bar unions from contributing to political campaigns that would have eliminated our political voice and ability to represent our members' safety. It's why we've stood arm in arm with our leadership across Wisconsin, who, despite being carved out of the bill, led the historic massive rallies and marches that took over the Capitol in Madison, Wisconsin for weeks on end. And we recalled 2 of those GOP senators last Tuesday, and we're going to keep focused. And I don't know what Governor Walker thinks right now, but he better be on the lookout, because we're going to be recalling him next year. In Ohio, it's why I was so proud to march on the Capitol with our leadership across the state, over 1,500 of our members, to make sure that Governor Kasich heard us loud and clear that his bill, SB 5, that decimates all collective bargaining rights for public employees, will not be tolerated. And our brothers and sisters there have already put a path forward to repeal that bill. They've gone across that state, and along with the coordination of all unions, delivered 1.3 million signatures to put the issue on the ballot this November, where I know our hard work is going to pay off, and SB 5 will be repealed. I guarantee you that. It's why we were able to contribute to the incredible work of our Pennsylvania professional firefighters and usher in a critical victory for our members in that state, who on July 7th, after 25 years of work and perseverance, finally got their cancer presumption law signed by the legislature and signed by the governor, a Republican governor, all after a Democratic governor had vetoed it just a session before, but our members finally prevailed. And right here in New York City, after Mayor Michael Bloomberg proposed closing 20 fire companies, I was so proud to join together with our great leadership of Locals 94 and 854 with the thousands of FDNY members when we marched across the Brooklyn Bridge. We rallied 15,000 strong right in front of City Hall, which was the beginning of a political and grassroots effort that ultimately forced Bloomberg to drop his plan. And as we come to the Big Apple this week, not a single one of those companies will be shut down. And I could go on. I can go on and on I want, because I could talk about Indiana that fought back and won, and Iowa, and Nebraska, and New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, and Illinois. So many other fighting back victories that our leadership has won in just the past few months. And I'm also proud that even in the face of this extreme politically gridlocked atmosphere where Congress has accomplished virtually nothing, on Thursday, we are able to discuss the details of the Zadroga 9/11 bill, which is now the law of the land. And it did take Congress 9 years, too long, to pass a bill as fundamental as taking care of the men and women who worked on that pile at Ground Zero. And unfortunately, we had to overcome a lot, including many in Congress like Senator Tom Coburn of Oklahoma, who tried everything in his power to stop the passage of that bill, and who simply thought and expressed his view that our members' lives were too expensive to save. But because of the tenacious efforts of our 2 New York City locals, the hard work of Senators Schumer and Gillibrand, and with the help of their many colleagues in the House, especially Peter King, Joe Crowley, Carolyn Maloney, and Jerry Nadler, I am proud to say that we did ultimately prevail. That bill was passed as the last act of the last Congress. It was justice long denied, long overdue, and we are going to continue to fight until we extend that bill and we include cancer in the coverage of that bill, and we're going to do that together. These are just a sampling of where this union has stood tall and strong in the face of furious opposition these last 7 months. So as I close, let's bear in mind that all of the attacks we are facing as a union and as a profession bring into focus the importance of what we'll do here this week. We will remember those who sacrificed before us. We will learn the lessons their service and duty taught us. And we will work together over the next few days to use that knowledge to make sure that we are able to go back home and fight like hell for our members who are out there continuing to serve on the front lines every single day. That's what this union is all about. That's what all of us have sworn to do. It's the basis of the achievements we'll continue to strive for and the programs we'll continue to build on behalf of the men and women of the IAFF. The lessons that I hope all of you will keep at the forefront of your efforts as you leave here this week is that the attacks on our entire labor movement have been launched by a new breed of extremist right-wing ideologues that took office at all levels of government earlier this year. And when they say unions are bad, they are talking about you. And when they say public employees are too powerful, they are talking about taking away your rights, your voice, and your ability to make an impact on our members' life. When they say government costs too much and we need to cut it, they are talking about your job, your future, your safety. Those that disdain us may have forgotten what happened 10 years ago, just blocks away from here. But we must and we will always remember what history has taught us, that our strength and ability to influence those who make the laws and set the policies in our jurisdictions is truly the most effective way to protect the safety, lives, and livelihoods of our member. And my commitment to you is that this IAFF of yours will continue to make sure that we are doing everything possible to give you every tool that you need and use every weapon at our disposal to help you fight back and protect our members' lives. It is our job. It's why we are here. It's why this union exists. And together, that's exactly what we're going to do. God bless you, and God bless this IAFF, and God bless every firefighter on the front line everywhere.